here with JoAnn Dillon, and we're starting our conversations with elders from the Museum of the American Indian. Welcome, JoAnn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, JoAnn, would you share a little bit about yourself and who you are and your Indigenousness?
I'm JoAnn Dillon, and I'm Choctaw from Oklahoma, and I'm very, very proud of that. Always, my whole life, I've been like, I'm an Indian. Um, my dad was Indian. My dad died when I was 2, and we had 10 acres in Oklahoma. We still do, but my dad died when I was 2, and my mom brought us all to California because she couldn't make a living in Oklahoma, and there are 7 children. Um, so 6 of us came out because my oldest sister was married. So I was raised in California, so I really feel like a California girl, but I am Indian, Oklahoma Indian through and through. I don't get back there very often. We do have land there, and my oldest sister has passed, so I have very few relatives left there. Anyway, I am Choctaw, and I've always felt Indian, even though I wasn't around my relatives. I was in Salinas, California. And it was pretty funny because I was pretty clear about who I am. I've always been clear about who I am. But at school, the children thought because I was Indian, I lived in a teepee, right? Or something, some such structure. And, it didn't offend me or anything. But at one point, I just got tired of, saying, no, I really didn't live in a fancy house or anything. We lived in actually army barracks from the war. Um, because we were pretty poor. But so one day I just invited them, well, just come home with me and you can see. So a few of them walked home with me. It was a long walk, but it was pretty fun to see them. Oh, so it's always been a light thing for me. It's never been a heavy thing for me to be an Indian. It hasn't ever been. I think actually I probably been given more respect and kind of led me into other things. So it was never anything that I was ashamed of or that anyone did any racist things with me. I never suffered that. I don't know why. Partly because I was in Marin, people are more educated there and aware of things. But even when I lived in the city, when I was a very young mother, I didn't have any, but I didn't expect it either. I just felt positive about it. And I think that works always to your advantage, to your health of your being, to feel positive about and expect the best for people. It kind of works out that way. My grandmother was on the Trail of Tears. My Indian granny lived to be 105. I didn't get to know her very well. I really only saw her a couple of times that I remember because I was a baby. I was only 2 when we came to California, and I had to leave my Indian granny. She was a medicine woman. She was a medicine woman. She was very, very kind. These are all that I learned from other people. Very kind, very gentle, soft spoken, very even. Kind of go out and get what she needed in the garden or in the woods or whatever, and tend to whoever needed tending to. Um, my mother, when my mother married my father, she was kicked out of her family because my mother is non-Indian, and they had this passionate connection, my dad, and so they married, but she was definitely kicked out of her family. She was disowned by her family. My dad and mom, of course, like I told you, I had no memories of them, so I love the stories of them. And they were very, very crazy, madly in love with each other. And they said it wasn't like they were just always glomming on each other, but the strength of their love was so strong, you could feel it. You've been around people like that. Just feel their connection. So she went to live with the Indian people, which was wonderful because that was my granny who taught her how to cook. She was only 18. Taught her how to tend to children, which my mother was just the best mom ever. Um, so she learned the Indian way, and she is very gentle. My mom is very gentle. She raised all of us with an 8th grade education, which meant she did every menial task known to men. Um, and she She never yelled. This is almost unbelievable. When I became a mom, I was like, how did she do that? She didn't punish us or yell, or she didn't go out with men. You know, she only worked very, very hard, and she just raised us with love. The bottom line. Anyway, she did learn the Indian ways because she was with my granny, and so we got that. We got, even though we weren't with the Indians, I know we got that because of my mom, and that she got that at that young age, and lived with her and really took it. They lived all, you know, very, very close with the aunts.
Did you grow up with knowledge of that your mom gained from your grandmother?
Yes. You know, mostly in just how to be, which is all we need to teach our children, how to be in the world. Be kind, be caring, be gentle. You know, don't hurt it, or don't hurt people or animals, all living things. If the children get that lesson, they're good to go. They can learn all that other stuff, you know, but that if you have that at the core of your being and your children get that, that's all they need to get. That's all they need to get. All that other stuff, yeah, you know, reading, writing, and all that stuff. I've been fortunate to be a preschool teacher, which has been a blessing in my life. So I've been able to share with them my Indian being, which has been wonderful and very enlightening for a lot of their parents. And the parents are wise enough to know that this is an opportunity for their children to learn that we're still here. Guess what? We're still here. Because, of course, no one was taught the truth in history books. We all know that. That's coming to light now, which is fabulous. Love what's happening. The turn of everything that's happening. It's a great time to be alive. And I'm so glad I get to be here. I'm 79. And I get to be here to see the enlightenment, which is what it is. People are becoming enlightened to other races in that, you know, we're all the same. We have the same needs. We need food. We need shelter. We need love. You don't need a TV. You don't need all that other stuff. But we're all the same. We're just like flowers in the garden. We're all different colors, and that's lovely. We're different heights, and we're different, you know, everything. But yes, so in answer to your question, from my mother, definitely yes. The core of what we need to know, I learned from her. Yeah.
Did you get to know your granny?
I only saw my granny twice. I have a picture of me with her. She wore long skirts. The Choctaws wore long skirts. Farmers, cotton clothes, which I still love. And I only saw her then another time when we went back to Oklahoma, and she was sick. She was in the hospital, so they didn't let children go in the hospital. But I only got to see her from the, you know, I was down on the lawn just to wave to her. So I don't have but I also don't have my father. But my father died before I was 2. But my father he knew he was sick. He was going to die. He had leukemia. And I was the youngest, and he carried me around. This is not a memory that I have, but it's what I'm told from my siblings. He carried me and so the first 2 years, if you're held that close to someone, you're getting some good mojo. You're getting some good juice, right? And it was always under trees, nature. So I know where I came from. I know what I got. I know where I got it. And I'm grateful. Mostly I'm grateful for everything. And my mom, you know, and I miss it every day. Every day.
I think about being from a mixed race family
Mm-hmm.
and having my father carry so much of he carried a lot of nativeness too, even though he wasn't native. So
Right.
I can relate with that.
Yeah.
It's about the wisdom.
Exactly. And it's about what you open your heart to. You can open your heart to anything, any culture, our heart can just be open. Just bring it all in.
How did you find being native in Marin? Like just living in Marin and find native community and find yourself, because it's hard to be far away from where your cultural roots are. So I just wondered about that.
Well, I connected with my Beth and other natives, and we started the Marin Alliance. We started a small group. I think we might have started in my house. So I don't know, 4 or 5 of us started. That was the beginning of the Marin Alliance. So I connected with Beth, and I There weren't a lot. There were a few a few people around, but in terms of being accepted as an Indian or how people treated me, they treated me honestly with some reverence, I have to say. Yeah. I always felt that, you know. And of course, I love when you're with Indian people, it's the best, right? Eating and cooking and laughing and watching the children or sharing, you know. And when I have gone back to Oklahoma or been around my people, the Choctaw people, to hear their language is so beautiful. I remember going there. My sister was sick, and we went to a reservation where she had to go to see a doctor. And there was Choctaw people were there, and they were running the gift shop. And I just went in the gift shop, and I just went became part of the wall just to hear the conversation. It was so wonderful. I just wanted to we didn't get to learn Choctaw. My dad was very, my sisters are all older. I'm the youngest of 7, so there's this range of age, quite a range. So the older sisters, and he didn't want Choctaw spoken because he felt the white man was taking over, and he didn't want us to be singled out, my sisters to be singled out. He wanted to fit into what was he thought as the inevitable, which of course is sad. And I'm the youngest of the last 4. So basically, my mom and dad had two separate families. So the older 3 were taken to boarding school. But the 4 of us, the younger ones, we were brought to California. So my sister was 9, I think, the oldest of the last 4. She was 9. Then my sister, and my brother, and then me.
Were they were in boarding school when you came to California and they stayed there?
No.
Or they were done with
When they were growing up, they were in boarding school. No, when we came to California, everyone came except my oldest sister. We came on the train, and it was wartime. You couldn't go on the train unless you were connected to a soldier. So my mom, get this, she has all these kids. I'm a baby, poor as can be. So she gets to the train. She had a brother in California. He said, if you come, I'll help you. Just get here, because she couldn't make a living there. So she got us to the train station in one of the larger towns, and but she couldn't get on the train. So she's in the train station with all these children, me being a baby. So a soldier saw her predicament, said, "Oh, my family's here, and we're traveling." He came and swooped us up, and because of this soldier, we got to California. Isn't that kind?
Yeah.
See?
Kind.
There you go.
And didn't she have some ridiculous amount of a small amount of money, like one of those stories when she arrived?
Well, when we arrived in L.A., the train arrived in L.A., she had $54, I think, or something, just nothing, and all these children to feed. And so she arrived in, we got to Salinas, and the taxi driver came, and she said, this is the address. She didn't have the money to pay him. She said, when I get there, my brother will pay you. And he said, lady, with what you're doing, forget about it. The least I can do is give you a free ride. So that was our coming to California.
Yeah, for sure.
They're out there, all of them.
Pops, your dad.
Yeah, looking out for you.
Yeah. My sisters were taken to Indian hospital school, and they each have different versions of how they handled that. The oldest one, she went into it, she melded into it, and the other 2 fought it, and fought the teachers and the directors and all that. She is a rascal. She's had a very, very, very hard life. I mean, if you heard all the stories of the things that have happened to her, you would think she would be just, no one could survive all that. She has lost several husbands, children, that kind of thing, dying. But she's always been a fighter. She just loves to fight somebody. She does. She's my total opposite. I'm fighting her.
She's violent if she has to be.
No, she'll go after, if a boyfriend is mean to one of the girls, she'll go after them with a broom or a mop
or a frying pan. Yeah,
a frying pan.
Yeah.
She's like that. Yeah,
she is. You want her on your side.
So in boarding school, she would think of all these things they could do, to trick the teachers. They would get the bed sheets and tie their doors of the teachers' bedrooms together so they could.
That's so cool.
She was like that little mastermind of mischievous acts in the school. Yeah, she still has that kind of way about her.
Yeah.
Don't come on my property. She goes, she's in the South. She's a Southern girl too.
Yeah.
Which
She's
is
still living in Oklahoma?
She lives in Virginia. She married a man and moved to Virginia. She lived there all these years. Yeah. Dana and I went there a few years ago. Yeah. In Oklahoma, we have land, as I say, and we have a lot of things named after us. The Bohannon Creek, the Bohannon. We have a beautiful, I wish I had told about this. We have a beautiful Bohannon cemetery there. And it's like in a movie. If you're walking in a movie, you're walking through the forest and you come upon this little cemetery. You've seen those in movies. And it has a fence and it had roses went across, and only Bohannons are buried there. My dad, my mom, my granny, my uncles, Bohannons. It's Bohannon Cemetery. Yeah, it's kind of a little treasure.
Do you feel like you said hasn't been a heavy thing for you to be Native? Do you think part of that is because you weren't forced into boarding schools like your siblings?
It could be. It could be. And then I just always got such a positive everything from my mom. And I think because my mom loved my dad so much. She was very, very quiet. She was very tall and beautiful. She had blue eyes and she was very calm. And she didn't talk a lot, which I loved. And I would just hang out with her, just to be with her. Just to be in her presence was like wonderful. That's why I'm a cook, because I would just cook with her. But she didn't talk about my dad unless you mentioned him, unless you ask a direct question. And then her eyes, it's always in the eyes. Her eyes would twinkle and almost like light up. They were so beautiful. That's when she talked about my dad. Of course, I had no memory of him at all. Nothing. Did I answer your question?
Well, thinking about when you guys were starting up the Indian Alliance, I'd just like to hear a little more about that. See, that was across the street from where I grew up, and you guys started meeting there. Who was part of the gang?
I think our first meeting was in a church basement. I think it was the Presbyterian Church, which is, I think, on Fifth Avenue. It was a basement of some church. I think
San Rafael, or was
in San Rafael.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rogers, someone named Rogers. That's a long time ago. Remember that we did this. So basically, I remember faces, but honestly, I don't remember all the names. It was a very small group to start. And I wanted to be radical. I wanted to be, so when people joined, I wanted to do things like take over Hamilton because the military had left it. And there's a treaty that says, if military land is deserted, it goes back to the natives, right? So there were about 5 of us, 3 men and 2 women, and we went to Hamilton. They met us with guns. We met them with feathers. It was pretty cool, but So there was kind of friction in the group because some people didn't want to touch anything political, and I'm all like, let's change the name of Tam High School, Indians or whatever they were. Remember, Data? We went to that meeting and they changed it, but it grew rapidly, and then it's taken different directions through the. But I love that we were the core. Your mom and I were the core, 2 of the core. Honestly, there were like 2 or 3 women and 2 or 3 men. The very beginning, and then it just started, as it became more and more.
Was this part of that whole vibe going on in the Bay Area that had been happening?
Yeah.
Like the occupation and
right.
AIM stuff happening? Was
yes.
It kind of after that?
It was during that time. Yeah, there's a lot of energy going into it, and a lot of news articles. So it was became like we needed to get together, so we did. Yeah. It was good.
And how did you participate in any of those things that were happening around the Bay Area or anywhere else in the country?
I participated in the changing of the TAM. I was on a panel for that. I wanted to go to Alcatraz, but I was married to Dana's dad, and they wouldn't let any white people go, so he couldn't go, so I couldn't, but I really want to go. Anyway, not too, I had a bunch of children at home, so they were my first, my priority. Yeah.
Well, raising Indian kids that's part of the movement too.
Yes.
Teaching them the right
oh
way.
yeah.
And teaching you, which you've done for years.
Yeah.
Sure, that's really important. Let's see. So thinking about this, like the conversations that we're having here, and I think you've kind of touched on this, but just the wisdom that we can share with our youth, and especially youth growing up in Marin, you know, it's a beautiful place, but it has a lot of things, like there's a lot of different aspects of it that can be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
The economical differences, the cultural, the lack of diversity sometimes that you see in the community, and so you know, I know for me growing up as the only Indian kid in my school for like most of the time, it was hard sometimes being that. So I just thought, you know, this is an opportunity maybe just to share some wisdom for, you know, Indigenous kids growing up in Marin and in this area, and just what your knowledge and your experiences, what you would say to them.
I think raising a human being is really kind of, first of all, it's a very wonderful thing that you get to do this. However, it's also like the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life. And it has to be a lifelong dedication. It's not that whole thing when they're 18, they go out. When they're 18, they need you close. So my take on all that of raising children, it's not even about being Indian or, you know, across the board. And I just said that before too, is that I just think always be proud of who you are, whoever you are, you know, just to love yourself, and whatever path you take, that's your guide. That's your guide. You're not going to go wrong. You'll have some bumps, you'll have some problems, but still, if you just do it with love and caring, really thinking of somebody else's feelings, not about what you want or what you need. I think it's a problem for children who are raised with a lot of wealth. I think that's really a problem for children. You know, so I think the parents have to work harder to make the balance for that. And I have worked with a lot of families in Marin, and because that's what I do. I cook for people. I take care of the children. That's what I do. So I've been fortunate. I think they've learned from me. They've actively sought my wisdom on that, my point of view about that, because they have a lot of money, you know. But they're intelligent enough. Intelligence doesn't go away just because you have money. They have both. But they were wise enough to say, how can I, you know, balance this with the fact that I can give my child all these things, all these fancy vacations and every toy that comes up. How can I give the balance of how to be a kind person? You know, how to think about other people and be aware that not everybody has this, you know. And it doesn't make you special because you have that. That doesn't mean you're special at all. And you need to do more. My contention is that if you have more, you need to give more. You need to do more. Let me see you go and be on the volunteer line. You don't just rest on your fancy little couch, you know. Do something for somebody. And I think that's not even, I just feel like it's not just a native thing. It's a human thing. And I think we have to get down to the core of it, that we're human. And like I said before, we come in different shapes and sizes and cultures, and learn about other cultures. How fascinating to learn about other cultures and what they do. I love to watch series, those soap operas from other countries, because I get to see their customs. It's so cool, and their food and how they treat each other, and how, it's just like it's a great education, and that's what we always have to have. The bottom line is education, education. I've told Dana that I got to meet with Brian Deloria some years ago. I know, I was traveling around the United States. Yeah. And he was teaching, and I called him for, I will talk to anyone. I'm not put down by somebody's, no, just a human being. So I called him, you know, and he said, I'm really busy, but come to my class. Brian Deloria. I said, okay. So this was the University of Arizona. And I went to his class. It was wonderful. And he, his whole lesson was that education. He had a lot of young Indian students there, and I remember he was just. Did I just give you goosebumps?
Yeah,
Me too. Every time I remember it. Yeah, no, he and I want him to be one of the statues that replaces all these jerks that are going bye bye, right? Yeah, and so and that's my point too is education, education. That's our savior. That's our savior for our children, for ourselves. Just to learn, 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 and then we can be kinder to each other. We get that lesson.
It's huge. Those are deep, deep words. I'm glad we have them on tape so we can share them.
I have so many different directions I could go because things start flooding in, and I'm excited right now to tell you that because I am from the Choctaw Nation. We're a wealthy tribe, and I'm moving away. And when I get settled, I'm going to be calling the chief. And we're going to be having some talks because I'm not pleased with the way the money is being spent. My belief that every person should have food, shelter, health care. If those things are covered and you want to buy this fancy little printout publication or you want to buy Christmas ornaments, okay, but not until these people all have what they need. Everybody. And that's what he's going to hear from me. And if I need to go down there and talk to him, I will do that. Because you have to be a voice. And I'm a voice I've lived a lot of years. And I know a lot. And he needs my wisdom. So I need to speak for the people why I can still speak, why I can still think, why I can still travel. You know, I feel really strongly maybe that's why I'm not working anymore. Hard for me not to work. I miss the children terribly. But maybe it's because I have another mission. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to be doing now. And as this is sort of unfolding, this being part of it, you know, you have to watch for those signs in life. Life isn't like making a cake where you have the little recipe. It's like you just be open, be aware, stay and watch, listen for this sign, watch for that sign. It will guide you where you need to go. And that's how my life has always been. You know, I didn't have a plan, didn't have a program. But it's worked out pretty well.
I think that sounds like an awesome plan. I'm all for it. I've actually started writing letters to the Navajo Nation president because I've been so mad.
Good.
This is not. It's. I think a lot of tribes need some. They need to hear from their people. So
You have to speak up.
Yeah.
You have to speak up. We have to. We know that. You know, you guys went to Standing Rock. It's because people spoke up. And now look what's happening. It's great. Yeah. But we always have to be cautious. You know, proceed with a little caution because we never know the government.
Well, listening to you speak today, I'm like, there's no way that he can't listen to you.
Oh no, he'll listen to me.
I'm like, he's gonna,
No, he
he's gonna
will.
Listen.
Yeah, if a man meets up with a woman who has strength and power, he's very wise to listen. Because if he doesn't, it will come back and kick him in the butt. It will. It will. This is the women. We're the life givers. We're the life givers, so we affect that force, the life force. What's more powerful than that? No, that's my stand. I'm excited to do that.
This is amazing. Thank you so much. I think it's been beautiful and just like so much wisdom. And I thank you so much and love you so much for it.
I love you too. Thank you for giving me a chance to spew and to share a bit of myself. Yeah.
Just to give some perspective of how recent your family was integrated into white culture, can you share any story that kind of...
The one I remember my mom telling me is that when my granny, the first time she saw a white man, she was a little girl, and she saw a white man, she thought he was a ghost. And she hid behind her mom's big skirts because she was scared. And then the girls, the older girls, they saw a white man, and then after the man went past or went through whatever, I don't know all the details of the story, but they went and they got the corn silk, and they made like beards and pretended they were the white man. Things like that.
Any other questions, Dana?
I just think it's interesting to hear that, just to give people perspective, because
Of not far.
I think to the bigger Western culture, it just feels like something so far away, and just the fact that you have sisters that remember
Mhm.
the first time seeing a white man and how novel it was that they made fun of, they played white man for the rest of the day and how novel that was. That's so recent. I just, interesting to talk about.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of stories, I'm sure. They did. Yeah. I think when I'm with children, I don't know why this made me think of it, but as being a preschool teacher and some of the children don't know, and when I remember one child said to me, "You're an Indian, right, JoAnn?" I said, "Yep, I'm an Indian." He said, "Yeah, but I don't understand." And I said, "What don't you understand?" He said, "Well, Indians are really mean and bad, and you're really nice." Like, okay, sit down here, honey. We need to have a little talk. And I spoke with his parents too. It's really cool when you can connect and educate someone, and they're open to it. They want what's best for their child, and they don't know things, and they don't know how to talk about it or anything like that. But as a teacher, it's been really fun for me to let them know me, and this is that I'm an Indian, because they connect that, and that we're still here, and that we do the same things that they do. That's been a real blessing part of my teaching career. I like that.